changing your life one story at a time. This is the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast with Editor-in-Chief Amy Newmark.
Hey, it's Amy Newmark with your daily dose of Chicken Soup for the Soul inspiration to make you simply happy. It's Wow Wednesday, and I have a cool story for today about a conversation with a stranger in Italy that leads to a miraculous reunion in Chicago. This story comes from our best-selling and very fun book called Chicken Soup for the Soul, Hope and Miracles. Here's what happened. Pamela Ciconas and her husband were traveling in Italy, and they were seated at dinner next to a couple from California. They started talking, and Pamela mentioned that she was interested in genealogy. The woman from California, whose name was Annette, said she thought that was fascinating because she knew nothing about her biological father or his family, including whether her father was even alive. She said that when she was 26, she had seen her birth certificate and learned for the first time that the man who she grew up thinking was her father was not her biological father. She confronted her mother about it, but her mother said she just didn't want to talk about it. And even when her mother was dying, she still wouldn't tell Annette anything. Annette said that her stepfather was great, but she still would have liked to know something about her biological father. She told Pam that the name on the birth certificate was Virgil Ferrin, and that was all she knew. That night, Pam got on the internet, and it didn't take her long to find Virgil Ferrin. Unfortunately, he had passed away already. Pam continued to do her research when she got back to the United States from her trip. Annette sent her a copy of the birth certificate, and there it was in bold letters, Father, Virgil Ferrin, clerk for the railroad, next to Annette's mother's name. It turned out that Annette's mother had gone away to school and returned home pregnant. She had married the man who became Annette's stepfather when Annette was 2 years old. Pam went ahead and researched the Ferrin family 5 generations back. She also learned that Virgil Ferrin had been survived by his wife, a son, and a daughter. So there were half-siblings for Annette. Pam then found Virgil's son Larry and his daughter Terry on Facebook. Larry was a college chemistry professor who lived with his wife in Chicago. Terry was married to a pastor and lived in Alabama. Their mother had died already. Now it was time for Annette to decide. Did she want to meet her half-brother Larry and her half-sister Terry? Annette wasn't sure. She didn't want to intrude. So Pam offered to make the contact for her. She wouldn't include Annette's last name, but she would tell them about how they met in Italy and how Pam helped Annette find them. After much thought, Annette decided that Pam should send the letters, saying, "I'm 74 years old, let's go for it." 8 days later, Pam got an email from a very excited Terry with the subject line, "My sister!" Her email was warm and welcoming, and Pam knew that everything was going to be okay. A few days later, Larry's email arrived, and it was just as warm and welcoming as Terry's. He said he couldn't wait to talk to his big sister. A few weeks later, about 8 months after that conversation with Pam in a restaurant in Italy, Annette went to visit Larry and his wife in Chicago. Terry was there to meet her too, standing by her brother. Annette called Pam from her cell phone as she walked up the ramp at the airport to meet her brother and sister for the first time. She wanted Pam to feel like she was there with her. So she described the scene to Pam, telling her that she saw Larry and Terry holding flowers and a sign that read, "Welcome to our family." I was emailing with Pam about this last night as I was preparing this podcast, and she told me that it still brings tears to her eyes when she thinks about it. They all went to Larry's house from the airport, and Annette called Pam again from there, and they passed the phone around the table so that Pam could talk to each of Annette's new family members. I can certainly see why Pam finds genealogy so fascinating, because it can lead to miraculous reunions like this one. I'm Amy Newmark. Thanks for listening to the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast today. Tomorrow is Thoughtful Thursday, and I'll be sharing a simple but powerful story about motherhood with you from country music star Jody Messina. If you want to learn more about the book that today's story was from, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Hope and Miracles, you can read all about it on our website, chickensoup.com.